Okay, I just want to go ahead and show a little example with the greatest integer function. Greatest integer function. This is an interesting function. It takes all of its inputs and rounds them down to the next greatest integer. So here's a little example. We want to evaluate this function at these various values of x. So for example, if I do f of 0, well, 0 is already an integer, so f of 0 would just be 0. In the greatest integer function. F of 0.1. Well, it's going to round that down to the next greatest integer, so f of 0.1 would equal 0 as well. How about f of 0.5? Well, 0.5, it's going to round it down to the next greatest integer, so that's going to be 0 as well. You can kind of imagine what's happening here. What if I did f of 0.9? Well, it's going to round it down to the next greatest integer, 0.99, 0.9999. Anything from 0 up to, not including 1, it's going to round it down to 0, so you get a nice straight line. 1.1, it's going to round it down to 1. Negative 1.1. Now you got to be careful with negatives. This is going to round down, I like to think, to the left on my number line. So that's going to round it down to negative 2. So anyway, this is an interesting function. Let me show you how to do it on your calculator. So if we want to graph this, so let's hit our y equals. And if you have anything there, just go ahead and clear it out. Now go ahead and push your math button and go over to the number menu. And we're going to go down to number 5. See that INT? And this will match the notation here on the page. And let's just do a basic one. So X, and let's go graph it. So it looks like a staircase. We call that a step function. And if I wanted to plug in some values, if I push trace, then you can type in any x values you want that are on the screen, and it will evaluate it for you. So for example, if I put in 0.5 for x and I hit enter, it comes up and says, oh, y equals 0. Again, it rounded it down. If I type in 1.1 for x, hit enter, it's a y equals 1. So it rounded it down to 1. If I do negative 1.1, negative 1.1, and hit enter, oh, rounded down to negative 2. So again, you can modify these graphs, do a lot of different things with them. There's a lot of examples out in the world where things would use a function like this. Really, it's just kind of a special piecewise function where you park so long, you pay this much. You park so long, you pay this much. Whatever. You get this many, it costs this much. You get this many, it costs this much. So there's lots of different places. Anyway, just want to introduce it to you. It's probably kind of new, not too big a deal. But anyway, just kind of a cool function I want to introduce to you. Greatest integer function.